Have you ever felt like the whole world has decided you're not cut out for the role you dream of playing? That no matter how hard you try, there's always going to be someone coming up with a new reason why you don't fit in? She felt that way twice. First, when she wasn't chosen for the Olympics. Then, when she was dropped by one of the biggest fashion magazines on the planet. And yet, she made up her mind. She decided that it wouldn't be the world who would tell her story. It would be her own. This isn't just another story about overcoming obstacles. It's about the breaking point that no one sees. That moment when everything on the outside remains the same, but on the inside, something changes. For real. What you're about to discover now might surprise you. Because sometimes, the no that hurts the most might be exactly the push you needed. And the most powerful decision of your life might be made in the dark. In the silence, when no one is looking. Here, each story is a spark. Each video is a safe space to remember who you are, even when the world tries to make you forget. If you've ever been ignored, rejected, or underestimated, this story will cut through you. It will show you that from failure to success is not just a pretty phrase. It's a real construction, made by those who refuse to be defined by the defeats they've suffered. She was called too good to quit, but not good enough to win. Have you ever heard anything like that? Have you ever experienced it? The kind of comment that doesn't knock you down completely, but doesn't let you get up either. She heard all of that, but instead of accepting it, she transformed it. Every rejection turned into raw material for something bigger. And you'll see how dots stay with me until the end, because this journey doesn't start with glory. It starts with failure, with doubt, with closed doors and broken promises. But it ends, well, you'll have to watch to find out. Now, come back with me. Before the fame, before the success. When she was just a girl with 2 no's on her resume and 1 invisible decision. About to change everything. She didn't have a brand yet. She didn't have dresses in the shop windows or magazine covers with her name on them. All she had was a noisy silence, the kind that only those who have been rejected know. But it was there, in this space where so many give up, that she made the most important decision of her life. It wasn't a grand one. No one applauded. No one even noticed. But inside, something definitive had happened. She decided that she no longer needed anyone's permission to exist. And perhaps that is what connects us most with this story. Because deep down, everyone has had a desire that the world has tried to silence. Everyone has wanted to be seen, even when no one was looking. And that is why I want to invite you to share. What has touched you the most so far? Have you ever experienced something similar? Have you ever had to rebuild your confidence after a no that seemed final? Leave your comments. I read each one carefully because this space is for that, to remind us that we are not alone. If this content made sense to you, like this video. Not only because it helps the channel, although it helps a lot, but because each like tells. YouTube, this message needs to reach more people. And if you feel that stories like this make a difference in your life, subscribe to the channel. Here we talk about silent turning points, invisible decisions, and the power that exists. In continuing, even when no one believes in you, your participation here is what makes this message grow. It's what turns a video into a movement. Because when you comment, like, and subscribe, you're not just strengthening this space, you're helping to bring that spark to other people who might need exactly that right now. And while the world out there still tries to fit everyone into ready-made molds, we continue here, telling the stories of those who dared to be exceptions. Now, look what happens when that invisible decision finally finds its reflection in the real world. She grew up gliding across the ice day after day, driven by a dream that she carried in her body and mind to represent her country in the Olympics. Vera Wang was not just disciplined, she was obsessed with perfection. She woke up early, trained to the limit, and believed that effort could shape destiny. And for a while, everything seemed to be going right. Then, at the decisive moment, the answer came. Not this time. She was not selected for the United States Olympic team. It's hard to explain what happens inside someone when such a big dream is interrupted like this. Because it's not just the loss of an opportunity. It's as if part of your identity has been ripped away. When you spend years believing you were born for something, and the world tells you otherwise, the silence that follows is deafening. And it was in this silence that Vera found herself. Broken, not in pieces, but inside. Like someone who breathes, but doesn't feel the air coming in. But she didn't stay still for long. The pain turned into momentum. And momentum took her to a new stage, fashion. For many, joining Vogue seemed like a second chance. Another path to prestige and visibility. But history repeated itself. Once again, she was overlooked. Once again, her ideas were heard and told she wasn't good. Enough. Once again, doors that seemed right closed without warning. That's where the hidden truth lies. The world rarely rejects you just once. Sometimes, it comes back just to test whether you give up easily. And when that happens, you start to wonder, am I the problem? Am I forcing something that isn't for me? It's at those moments that many people stop. Not because they don't have talent, but because they get tired of fighting an invisible tide. Because emotional exhaustion doesn't scream, it empties. And Vera reached that point. A silent rock bottom, without scandal, without public tragedy. Just that constant feeling of trying too hard. For nothing. But that's exactly where this story begins to change. Because instead of disappearing, she decided to listen to something deeper. Something that didn't come from coaches, editors, or directors. Something that came from within. And the most curious thing? The world still had no idea. On the outside, she was just another woman who didn't make it on the ice or in the magazine. But on the inside, a plan was being born. And this plan didn't ask for permission. Now I want to go even deeper into this. Because there's something few people understand about moments of repeated rejection. They're not just painful, they're revealing. They show you who you really are when no one else seems to see value in you. And it's in this kind of darkness that certain decisions take shape. Decisions that change everything. Decisions that quietly build empires. Comment here. That makes sense to me. I want to know if you have ever experienced something similar. She didn't announce anything. She didn't post catchphrases. She didn't tell her friends. She didn't try to convince anyone. What happened? There wasn't an elaborate business plan, nor a stroke of luck. It was a raw, internal, silent decision, almost invisible. Promise she made to herself. If the world didn't have a space for her, she would create one. If no one wanted her designs, she would dress up her own dreams. And that's how it all started, with a blank sheet of paper, an insistent idea, and a woman tired of waiting for approval. Vera Wang was not a fashion designer. She had no background in haute couture, no technical training. But she had something that many people with degrees don't have: clarity. She saw what she wanted to do. She felt the aesthetics. She imagined the drape, the curves, the texture of the transformation. Because that's what it was, after all. Transforming fabrics into identity, insecurity into beauty, rejection into elegance. Creating something from scratch, not because someone asked her to, but because she knew it needed to exist. There is a rare strength in people who decide to move even when no one is watching. A strength that comes not from the need for applause, but from the refusal to accept stagnation as fate. Vera didn't want to prove anything to anyone. She wanted to create. And this is one of the most hidden truths behind success stories. What drives someone is not always the desire to win. Sometimes, it's just the desire not to be erased. While the world ignored her, she was already designing what, years later, would become synonymous with sophistication. But back then, at the beginning, it was just her ideas and an impulse that is hard to explain. That is why these decisions are so powerful, because they happen in the total absence of validation. They are decisions made in the dark, which cannot generate likes, nor comments, nor immediate recognition, but they plant something that grows slowly, until one day the world notices. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because what many people don't see is that great changes don't start with big actions. They start with small internal breakthroughs, with the courage to look at your own frustration and say, this is not the end. They happen when you stop waiting for permission from others and start taking steps based on your own intuition. It's in these silent behind-the-scenes moments that true transformation begins. There is no manual for this. There is only that specific moment when you realize that if you continue to depend on other people's acceptance, you will never get anywhere. Vera understood this. And when she understood, she stopped asking for space and started taking it. Without fuss, without guarantees, without a script. Just with the faith that if the vision was true, the impact would come sooner or later. Write it down. I'm on this journey too. If you've ever felt like you needed to make an invisible decision, even if no one understood, because sometimes what we need most is to choose, even before the world notices. The funny thing is that when success finally arrives, everyone wants to know the secret, as if there were a magic formula, a shortcut, a foolproof plan. But when Vera Wang looks back, it wasn't a powerful mentor or an unexpected opportunity that changed everything. It was that almost imperceptible choice she made alone, at a time when everything seemed lost. A silent decision, without witnesses, made in an intimate space between frustration and faith. That's why, when she says it came from a decision no one saw, it's not a metaphor, it's the raw truth. What people see today are the impeccable dresses, the luxurious events, the names of the celebrities who wear her creations. But what they don't see, and perhaps will never fully understand, is the amount of gray days, of doubts weighing on their shoulders, of attempts that came to nothing. The empire didn't start with a red carpet. It started with a silent enough that only she heard. There is a dangerous tendency to romanticize success as if it was foreseen from the beginning, as if it were written in the stars. But the hidden truth is that it was built in the dark, with difficult decisions, with a mindset that refuses to accept that rejection defines someone. Vera Wang didn't want to prove anything to anyone, but she ended up proving everything. That a vision is enough as long as you are willing to support it. Even alone. Today, her name is etched in fashion history. Not as someone who followed the traditional path, but as someone who created her own. She redefined elegance, brought personality where there had been rigidity, and transformed wedding dresses into emotional art. And all because one day, she decided to keep going, even though she didn't know exactly where it would lead. And the most powerful thing about all this external transformation was just a reflection of an internal change. The journey that began with a sense of failure has become a cycle of real impact. Not just at gala events or luxury shop windows, but in the lives of those who need a reminder that it is possible to turn things around, that you don't have to wait for recognition to start building something real. What happens after the world's first yes is as revealing as the wait for the yes. What do we do with the recognition? How do we sustain what we have created with so much effort? How do we not get lost in the midst of the validation that once seemed so distant? Comment here. The decision that no one saw. Just so I know you understand where it all really starts. How many no's have you collected in silence, trying to disguise how much they hurt you? How many times have you heard, between the lines or directly, that what you want is not for you? That it is too late, too early, too bold, too impossible? And how many of these phrases have you absorbed without realizing it, to the point of starting to believe them? This is where this story intersects with yours. Because what Vera Wang experienced, this mix of frustration with desire, of rejection, with inner urgency, may be what you are experiencing right now. And perhaps you still haven't realized that the most powerful moment of your life may not have an audience at all. Have you ever thought about this? That your change could happen while the world sleeps, while no one pays attention, while you yourself still have doubts. Because the truth is that great changes don't begin when everything improves on the outside. They begin when something changes on the inside. And if you stop to observe honestly, you might realize that this transformation has already begun. In you, right where you are, at this very moment. It doesn't have to be grand, nor public, nor recognized. It just has to be real. Sometimes, what you lack is not a perfect plan. It's just an intimate decision, a phrase you say to yourself with conviction. I will not accept this version of my story. And if this phrase echoes within you, maybe it's time to stop looking for external signs and start trusting your own voice. The one that insists even when everything tells you to give up. The one that whispers when the world screams that you failed. Think about your dreams now. The one you almost forgot or hid for fear of seeming too naive, or too ambitious, or too different. Is it still there? Because if it is, that's a sign. And no, it's not mystical nor cheap motivational. It's just emotional logic. If a desire survives time, the falls and the silence, it's because it deserves attention. And more than that, it deserves action. It's not about becoming Vera Wang or copying someone else's path. It's about creating your own. With the resources you have, with the wounds you carry, with the baggage you've accumulated so far. The real question isn't whether you'll be recognized. The question is, are you willing to recognize yourself first? Because only when you decide who you are does the world begin to understand how to deal with you. And sometimes it even bows down. The difference between those who change their own story and those who watch from afar is an invisible choice. And if you've made it this far in this video, it's because this choice has already begun to form within you. It's no coincidence. It's a connection. It's your unconscious aligning with something that needed to be said. Now, with all that you've felt, think, what would be your silent response to the world that told you this isn't for you? What would you say to yourself if no one was listening? What story do you still want to live? And you willing to write with your own hands? Maybe the world is not ready to understand yet, but that never stopped those who chose to be an exception. If you've come this far, it's because something inside you recognized this story. Maybe because it sounds a little like yours. And if so, then this channel is yours too. Here, each video is made for those who believe that there's still time. For those who feel that they carry something great even when no one sees it. Subscribe and stay with us, because this is what this space is for. To remind you that making decisions in silence is also a way of shouting that you won't accept less than you deserve. Leave a comment. This message was for me, just so now you stuck around until the end. This helps me understand who's truly on this journey. And if this video touched you in any way, please leave a like. It helps this content reach more people who might need to hear exactly this right now. There is a video here on the side that complements this subject. Click and continue with me there. The next story may be even more similar to yours.